When a man loses a real woman, he might not immediately grasp the weight of his mistake. At first, he may act indifferent, brushing it off as just another breakup, assuming he can move on easily. But deep down, something feels different. Unlike past relationships, this one doesn't fade into the background. It lingers in his mind, resurfacing at unexpected moments. He tells himself he's fine, but a subtle unease begins to grow. The silence she left behind isn't just the absence of a person, it's the absence of something irreplaceable. At first, he might try to distract himself. He fills his time with work, social outings, or other women, hoping to drown out the emptiness. But distractions are temporary. No matter how many people he surrounds himself with, he starts noticing the small yet significant ways she impacted his life. The way she used to encourage him, the way she understood him without him needing to explain, the way she made him feel like more than just another man. These things become glaringly obvious now that they're gone. He begins to recall the moments he overlooked, the time she supported him when he felt lost, the way she stood by his side when he had nothing, and the countless sacrifices she made without asking for anything in return. These memories shift from the back of his mind to the forefront. He realizes she wasn't just another woman. She was the kind of woman most men search for their entire lives. And he let her go. As this realization deepens, he starts comparing every new interaction to what he had with her. He meets other women, but something always feels off. The effortless connection he had with her isn't there. Conversations feel shallow. Other women might be attractive, but they don't inspire him the way she did. They don't challenge him, don't understand him in the same way. And that's when it really starts to sink in. She wasn't just special, she was rare. The regret starts creeping in slowly, but soon it becomes overwhelming. He starts replaying past arguments, trying to pinpoint where things went wrong. He wonders if he was too stubborn, too dismissive, or too blind to see what he had. He realizes that he took her presence for granted, assuming she would always be there. But now, she's not. And the worst part? She's not waiting for him to realize his mistake. She's moving forward, building a life where he no longer has a place. This is where the pain intensifies. He starts checking her social media, looking for signs that she misses him. But instead of finding posts about heartbreak, he sees her thriving. She looks happier, more confident, and completely at peace. And that's when the final blow hits. She didn't just leave him. She leveled up without him. The woman who once loved him unconditionally is now out of his reach. There's a certain kind of pain that comes with losing a woman who truly loved you. It's not just the loss of a relationship, it's the loss of what could have been. He starts to see that if he had treated her differently, if he had appreciated her instead of taking her for granted, things might have been different. But the past isn't something he can change. He has to live with the knowledge that he had something real and he let it slip away. For some men, this becomes a wake-up call. They learn from their mistakes, vowing never to take another woman for granted again. For others, the regret stays with them, a constant reminder of what they lost. Either way, the realization is the same. He thought he could replace her, but now he knows the truth. Some women are one of a kind, and once you lose them, there's no getting them back. Not. At first, he assumes he still has control over the situation. He believes that if he wanted to, he could reach out, say the right things, and pull her back into his life. He convinces himself that she's probably still thinking about him, still waiting for a sign from him. After all, she loved him deeply. Why would that change? This illusion gives him comfort in the beginning, making him feel as if the door is still open. But as time passes, he starts to sense something unsettling. She isn't chasing him. She isn't calling, texting, or leaving any hints that she's waiting for him to return. And this is where his ego starts to crack. The moment he realizes she's actually gone is like a sudden, unexpected punch to the gut. He assumed she would linger in his shadow, hoping for a reconciliation, but instead she has moved in a direction where he no longer exists. At first, he tells himself it's temporary, that she's just putting on a front to make him jealous. He convinces himself that she'll eventually break and come back, needing him the way she once did, but she doesn't. Days turn into weeks, and instead of growing desperate for his attention, she seems to be thriving. This is when his mind becomes restless. He starts wondering what's really going on in her life. He finds himself scrolling through her social media, looking for clues. He sees her smiling, enjoying life, surrounded by people who make her happy. But what gets to him the most is the absence of pain. She isn't broadcasting heartbreak, isn't showing signs of struggle, and that stings in a way he didn't expect. He realizes she's not pretending, she's genuinely moving on. His ego, which once reassured him that he was irreplaceable, starts to turn against him. He begins to ask himself questions that shake his confidence. Was she really suffering when they broke up, or was she just relieved to be free? Did she love him as deeply as he thought, or was he just one chapter in her story? The thought that she might not be dwelling on him the way he is on her starts to eat away at him. At this stage, his emotions become unpredictable. One moment he's angry, feeling like she's betraying what they had by moving on so easily. The next, he's drowning in nostalgia, remembering every beautiful moment they shared. He starts replaying conversations, thinking about the little things she did that made him feel special. He realizes that she gave him a love that was pure and real, but instead of appreciating it, he took it for granted. And now that love is gone. The irony of the situation is that when he had her, he didn't value her the way he should have. He thought she would always be there no matter how he treated her. But now he sees the truth. Love is not something you can neglect and expect to last. It requires effort, respect, and appreciation. And when a woman realizes her worth, she won't beg for love. She won't sit around hoping someone finally sees her value. She will walk away. And when she does, it leaves behind a void that no one else can fill. This realization doesn't just hurt, it haunts him. Because now he understands something that he wishes he had known before. She wasn't the kind of woman who plays games. She loved him fully and deeply, but she wasn't going to waste her time on someone who couldn't see what she had to offer. She gave him chances, she gave him time, but in the end, she chose herself, and that is a loss he will have to live with. There comes a moment when the weight of his choices finally settles in. At first, he brushed off the idea that losing her would affect him. He convinced himself that he could find someone else, that he could replace her, that no woman was truly irreplaceable. But time has a way of revealing the truth, and the truth is that not all women are the same. He begins to understand that what he had with her was rare. It wasn't just about attraction, chemistry, or shared memories. It was about how she made him feel. And no matter how many distractions he chases, no matter how many new faces enter his life, none of them can replicate the feeling she gave him. He starts looking for pieces of her in other women. He notices the little things he once took for granted, how she laughed, how she encouraged him, how she believed in him even when he didn't believe in himself. He remembers the way she stood by him, the way she listened, the way she saw him in a way no one else ever did. But when he looks around, she's no longer there. And it starts to dawn on him that he might have let go of the one person who truly understood him. At first, he tries to distract himself. He fills his time with work, with friends, with temporary pleasures that promise an escape. But at the end of the day, when he's alone with his thoughts, he feels it. That emptiness, that sense of something missing. He doesn't want to admit it, but it becomes clearer with each passing day. She was the one who added meaning to his life. She was the one who made even the ordinary moments special. Regret starts to creep in. He replays the past in his mind, thinking about the moments he could have done differently. Maybe he should have listened more. Maybe he should have made her feel more appreciated. Maybe he should have fought harder instead of assuming she would always be there. The what ifs start to haunt him. What if he had realized her worth sooner? What if he had been the man she needed? What if he had given her the love she deserved before it was too late? And then the harsh reality sinks in. He had his chance, and he wasted it. He let pride, ego, or indifference blind him from what was right in front of him, and now she has moved on. She is living her life without him, proving that she never needed him. She simply chose him. And that choice is something he lost the moment he stopped valuing her. This is when he starts feeling the true cost of his actions. It's not just about missing her presence. It's about realizing that she was the one who made his life better in ways he didn't even notice before. It's about knowing that someone else someday will see what he failed to see. Another man will appreciate her. Another man will give her everything he didn't. And worst of all, she will never look back. By the time he realizes all of this, it's often too late. The door he once assumed would always be open is now closed. He can try reaching out, he can try apologizing, but deep down, he knows she's already moved forward. She has grown into a version of herself that no longer needs him. And that is a loss he will have to live with, no matter how much he wishes things had turned out differently. At first, he doesn't realize what he's lost. He moves on with his life, thinking that everything is fine, that things will go back to how they were, that he can always find someone else. He convinces himself that she was just another chapter, not the whole book. But time has a way of revealing the truth, and slowly he starts to feel it. An emptiness he can't quite explain. A sense that something is missing. At first, he tells himself it's just habit. He was used to her being around, to her messages, to her voice. He assumes that the silence will feel normal soon enough, but it doesn't. Instead, the absence grows louder. He reaches for his phone, almost instinctively expecting a message from her, but there's nothing. No calls, no texts, no little check-ins to see how his day is going. He used to take those small things for granted, but now he realizes they weren't small at all. Days turn into weeks, and he starts to notice the difference in ways he never expected. His life feels duller. He used to complain about the little things she did. Maybe she was too affectionate. Maybe she wanted too much of his time. But now he realizes that those things weren't problems. They were proof that she cared. And the women he meets now, they don't have that same warmth. They don't look at him the way she did. They don't laugh at his jokes the same way. They don't remember the little things about him, the details she never forgot. He goes out trying to distract himself. He fills his time with other people, thinking that someone new will replace her. But with every new conversation, with every new date, he finds himself comparing. And no one measures up. He tells himself it's just in his head, that he'll get over it, but the truth is unavoidable. She was different. It starts hitting him at unexpected moments. Maybe he hears a song that reminds him of her. Maybe he walks past a place they used to go together. Maybe he hears someone say something she used to say, and suddenly she's everywhere. Memories of her start to come back in ways he can't control. He remembers the way she made him feel, the way she supported him, the way she was always there, even when he didn't deserve it. And he realizes that no one else will ever quite be her. Regret sets in, but he tries to push it away. He tells himself he had his reasons for how he acted, that maybe it was for the best, but deep down he knows the truth. He let go of something real. He let go of someone who truly cared, someone who was there for him in a way that most people never will be. And for what? A moment of pride? The belief that she would always be there, waiting for him? And that's when the hardest part sets in, realizing that she's not waiting, that she's moving on, that she's building a life without him, that she's becoming stronger, happier, more confident. He expected her to break without him, to miss him the way he misses her, but instead she's thriving, and that stings more than anything else. He wants to reach out, he wants to fix things to see if there's a way back, but something stops him. Maybe it's the fear that she won't answer. Maybe it's the realization that even if she does, she's no longer the same woman who once loved him. The version of her that he had is gone. And that's the worst part, knowing that he didn't just lose her, he lost the chance to be the man she once believed in. And so he sits with the regret. He watches from a distance as she becomes the woman he always knew she could be. And he wishes more than anything that he had seen her worth before it was too late. But now, the only thing left for him to do is wonder what could have been. There comes a moment when the reality of his loss settles in, and it's no longer something he can deny. The regret he once brushed off as a passing thought becomes a persistent weight in his chest. At first, he thought he could ignore it. He told himself that time would heal everything, that he would find someone else, that life would move on just as easily as it always had. But deep down, he starts to recognize that something is different this time. This isn't just any breakup. This isn't just another relationship that ended. This was something real, something meaningful, and now that it's gone, he understands what he has lost. The realization doesn't come all at once. It creeps up on him in small ways, through seemingly insignificant moments. He catches himself reaching for his phone, expecting to see a message from her, only to remember that she's no longer a part of his daily life. He walks past a place they used to visit together, and instead of a casual memory, a deep longing sets in. He hears her favorite song, and instead of feeling indifferent, he's hit with a wave of emotions he thought he had under control. What makes it worse is that he never expected to feel this way. At the time, he thought he was making the right choice. Maybe he believed she would always be there, waiting for him. Maybe he assumed she wouldn't move on so quickly. Maybe he even convinced himself that she wasn't as special as she seemed. But now, standing in the silence of his own decisions, he realizes he was wrong. He thought he could replace her. He thought that meeting someone new would fill the void. But what he didn't expect was that every new person would only remind him of what he had before. The conversations feel empty. The connections feel forced. No one else knows him the way she did. No one else laughs at his jokes the same way. No one else looks at him with the same admiration and warmth that she once did. And the more he searches for something to fill the gap, the more he realizes that she wasn't just another woman, she was the woman. The hardest part is seeing her move on. He assumed she would struggle without him, that she would miss him in the same way he now misses her. He thought she would be waiting for the moment he decided to come back, but instead she's thriving. She's becoming stronger, more confident, more independent. She's glowing in a way he never noticed before, and suddenly it dawns on him she didn't need him. She loved him, she cared for him, but she never needed him, and now she's proving that to the world. The thought of reaching out crosses his mind more than he would like to admit. He picks up his phone, scrolls through their old messages, and hesitates. He wonders if she still thinks about him, if she still feels the same way. But then he realizes something even more painful. If she had wanted to reach out, she would have. She's not playing games. She's not sitting by the phone waiting for him. She's moving forward while he's stuck in the past. And that's the real lesson he learns too late. He had a woman who truly cared, who gave him everything, who stood by him even when he didn't deserve it, but instead of appreciating her, he let her go. And now, there's nothing he can do to change that. He can only watch from the sidelines as she builds a life without him, a life he once had a place in but lost because he failed to see what was right in front of him. Regret is a powerful thing. It doesn't just remind him of what he lost, it makes him question everything about himself. Why did he take her for granted? Why did he assume she would always be there? Why did he let his pride, his ego, or his fears stop him from treating her the way she deserved? He doesn't have the answers. All he knows is that he made a mistake, and now the only thing left to do is live with it. There's a certain moment when reality becomes undeniable, a moment when he realizes that what he once had is gone, and this time it's for good. At first, he tries to shake off the thoughts, convincing himself that everything will return to normal. He tells himself that she'll come back, that this is just a temporary phase, that she'll eventually miss him enough to reach out. But as the days turn into weeks and the weeks into months, he starts to see the truth. She's not coming back. And the only thing left for him to do is face the weight of his own choices. The world around him hasn't changed much, but his perspective has. The places he once took her, the inside jokes they shared, the effortless way she made him feel understood, those things haunt him now. He finds himself thinking about what he could have done differently. What if he had appreciated her more? What if he had listened instead of dismissing her feelings? What if he had been the man she needed instead of the man he assumed was enough? These questions don't just fill his mind, they consume him. He starts to realize that he lost more than just a woman. He lost a safe place, a source of warmth and unconditional support. She was someone who truly saw him, someone who accepted him for who he was, even in his flaws. And yet he had pushed her away. Maybe it was his pride. Maybe it was his arrogance. Maybe it was simply his inability to recognize her value when she was right in front of him. But whatever the reason, he now understands that he made a mistake, one that he may never be able to fix. What makes it worse is that she's not suffering the way he imagined she would. He thought she would struggle without him, that she would be lost, that she would find herself regretting ever walking away. But instead, she's thriving. He sees it in the way she carries herself, in the way she's moving forward with confidence, in the way she's smiling in photos that no longer include him. He watches from a distance as she becomes everything he once underestimated. And it hits him. He was never the reason for her happiness. She was always strong on her own, and now that he's gone, she's proving that to the world. It's a humbling experience for him. He starts to see how much of his identity was wrapped up in the idea that she needed him. But now the truth is clear. She didn't need him. She wanted him. And there's a painful difference between the two. Need is dependency, but want is a choice. She chose him once, but now she's choosing herself. And that realization stings more than anything. There comes a point where he thinks about reaching out. He wonders if she still thinks about him, if she misses him the way he misses her. He picks up his phone, debates sending a message, even types one out, but something stops him. Maybe it's the fear of rejection, or maybe it's the understanding that even if she responded, things wouldn't be the same. The woman he took for granted isn't waiting for him anymore. She's out there building a new life, one that no longer includes him. Regret is a slow burn. It doesn't hit all at once, but rather in waves, each one stronger than the last. It's in the little reminders. The scent of her perfume on an old sweater, the way his hand instinctively reaches for hers when crossing the street, the songs that once meant nothing but now carry a weight too heavy to ignore. It's the realization that someone else, someday, will get the version of her that he was too blind to appreciate. And that's the ultimate consequence of his choices. He thought he had time, he thought she would always be there, he thought he could take without giving, but now he understands the brutal truth. He lost something rare, something real, and no amount of regret will ever bring it back. Now he's left with nothing but memories and the harsh reality that when a real woman walks away, she never looks back.